What is up, you guys? I hope you're doing well. I'm Fuentes, and in this video we're going to check out how to achieve a moody look in your photography. Now, the moody style is very wide, very common, also very extensive. There's a lot of profiles that achieve this look, and particularly in the Edit Like series, we've achieved the moody look in different profiles, and then in color grading we go and create the very unique style for each of these profiles. So that's basically what we're going to do. We're going to go into the basic editing tabs in the exposure, the contrast, highlights, whites, blacks, all those things, and in the tone curve to achieve a moody look. And then in the color grading part, we're going to achieve our own personal look, so you can have your own personal color grading in the moody look, and myself. So first, let's jump into Instagram, see a couple of profiles that resemble this style, have a different take on it, so we have a wider repertoire on what we're doing. Then we're going to jump into Lightroom and edit this, guys. So guys, I'm just going to show you some profiles that use the moody style. Each of them uses it in their own manner with their own color grading, but I want you to look at the constants. Now in this case, Jason's Scottish, he lives in Washington. We can see that his style is very desaturated, the greens are very muted and turned down, but we do see some blacks are raised and the highlights are dimmed down. That's a constant that we're looking for. You can see that it really works with cloudy days and overcast days, but it also works in sunshine. We can see the blacks are raised also, and it still gives us that moody look. Another example, this portrait is fantastic as well, taken with a long telephoto lens. You can see that the highlights are dimmed down. That's why there's so much information in the skies and in the snow, but still the blacks are raised. So this is a very good representation of the moody style applied in a day with not too many moody settings. Okay, next up, Moody Scenery. This is a compound page that reposts a lot of photographs from various artists, and here we can see the moody style at its maximum peak with all the mist. But as we scroll down, we can see that the style not only applies in moody days but also sunshine days, this case in the desert or in the snow, I don't know. Well, this image of Iceland is fantastic as well. Here we can see that it applies also for beaches and everything like that. The key is to keep the editing style constant, guys. Okay, next up, Dylan First. I'm not going to dive into this one too much because I already made a tutorial analyzing his style, but we all remember it. I'm going to put it up here in the cards, in the information cards, if you want to go check it out. He lives in Washington as well, and here we can see his style is very unique, very cold, very dark, and completely moody. Taking in, most of his photographs are taken in a moody day, cloudy day, or even at dusk or at dawn. So his style is fantastic, guys. Go check him out and support them all. Okay, next up, this is my biggest inspiration and favorite creator of all time. He makes YouTube videos. His vlogs are very cinematic, but his photography is also very nice. You can see a lot of moody tones, and he incorporates his moody tones even in days. This is taken here in autumn, this time in autumn, and we can see that the moody vibe is there. He achieves it with shooting with prime lenses with wide apertures, so the background is very separated from the subject, but the tones that we see are very constant. If we scroll down, his style is very moody and it's very constant throughout all the seasons. Here in summer, it still remains with that moody vibe. Now if we go all the way down to winter, here we can see that the style really pops up. This portrait of his girlfriend is fantastic. The talent is very isolated with all the snow, and everything else is desaturated and dimmed down. Again, another portrait, fantastic bokeh in this image. And here we can see the blacks are raised, the highlights are dimmed down, achieving this very moody portrait. Now obviously the style really pops up when you combine it with mist, with a cloudy day, with some rain. That's going to be something plus for your images, but this style should be applicable to all kinds of photography. Having said that, the next profile that we're going to look into, and the last one, is Finn Marston. He's a German photographer who lived in Australia, and you can see his photographs aren't resembling the moody day at all. They're just photographs taken in the situation that he was. Australia is quite hot, and here we can see a waterfall with the dry vegetation, and still he remains with that moody vibe in the shadows and the highlights dimmed down. That's basically the essence of the moody style. Now these portraits are fantastic. His photography is fantastic. Again, dimmed down highlights. That's why we have so much information in the sky. And if we keep scrolling down, we can see that his style doesn't resemble obviously a moody day. There's not many clouds and rainy things or misty days, with some exceptions like this photograph. Instead, we can see some tropical vibes, but acquiring that moody tones in the shadows and in the highlights. This one is very tropical, as we can see. There's a lot of tropical vegetation, but still it remains with that moody tones. Now he's very popular for his portraits with the moon taken with a telephoto lens. Now this photograph is very moody as well. It's taken in a sunny day. As we can see, the mountains are very highlighted by the sun, but still he achieved that moody vibe by bringing down the highlights and raising up the shadows, guys. Lastly but not least, we have this ATV in the desert, and still, if we zoom in, we can see that it remains with that moody tones, moody vibe. The blacks are raised, and that's basically what we're gonna do, guys. Let's jump into Lightroom and edit this. So guys, once in Lightroom, we open up our images. As you can see, I have several images, a variety of scenarios, of lighting scenarios. So in this case, we have some portraits indoors. Then we have this image, which is basically the only one which is acquaint to the moody vibe with a lot of mist and an overcast day. Other than that, we have some random images like these portraits of my dogs in a sunny day, I have to say, but we're inside the forest or beneath the foliage, so the light is a lot more diffused. And then we have this image, which is a very overexposed day, a very highlighted day, and we want to see how the preset or the moody tones apply to this one. Now for this edit, guys, I'm going to go quite slow if there's some beginners around there, so you know what I'm doing. So I'm just going to jump into the develop tab with this image selected, and we're going to start editing. Now this edit is going to be based around the basic correction and the tone curve, applying the constants that we have seen in the profiles that we've visited with the lifted shadows, the dimmed down highlights. That's basically what we're going to do here. And then we're going to move into the HSL tabs, the split toning and the color grading in the camera calibration to achieve our own unique moody look. So I'm going to do the values that I normally do in the color grading, what I find aesthetic. Maybe you can do it in a different manner. So I'm just going to show you what I do normally, guys. But before that, let's start off with the basic correction. Now I'm going to move all these values, guys, but some of the values will depend on each image. For example, the white balancing will depend on each image, as well as the exposure and the overall contrast. So for white balancing, what I like to do is select the selector over here and select anything that I know is white in the image. So in this case, I know that the fog is white. And as we can see immediately, it alters the temperature and the tint to acquire a correct white balancing. Next up, the exposure. Now the exposure in this image in particular is quite underexposed. So I'm going to amp up the exposure up so we can see what we're working with, just around there. And now let's jump into the edit, guys. So next up, the highlight, shadows, whites and blacks. Now there's a difference between whites and highlights. Highlights control the, let's say, the midtones in the whites. Just around here we can see that the whites move, but if we move the whites up, the whitest parts of our image are the ones that are affected the most. Here we can see there's a lot more change in the whites down here. The same applies with the blacks. The blacks control the darkest parts of our image, meanwhile the shadows control more towards the mid blacks. So let's start off with the highlights. Now what we want to do is decrease the highlights to make the image a lot more flat. So for that we can move the slider up or down, or we can just put the value down here with our keyboard. Other than that, we can also put the cursor over the name of highlights, and with negative or plus on our keyboard we can move the values up or down. So I'm just going to move them all the way down to a -90. Next up, shadows. Now the shadows, we want to do the inverse of what we did in the highlights. We want to move them up, so we're going to move it with the plus sign, or we're just going to move it down here to the 90. And as we can see, the image is a lot more exposed now. Next up, the whites, we're going to move to a -15. We don't want pure whites on our image. We remember that all the images that we saw don't have completely white or blown out skies or anything like that. And the blacks, we're just going to return them with a -15 to achieve a bit of contrast. Okay, next up, texture and clarity in the presence tab. Now texture, we don't want to move it really. That will depend on each image or in each case. So if we move the texture up, we can see that everything turns towards an HDR filter, which is not ideal, guys. It looks kind of fake. So just going to leave it at 0, as well clarity. But the haze, we are going to move it. If we move the haze down, we can see that all the mist comes up, the haze. If we move it up, it's made to eliminate all the mist in the image. So in this case, I'm just going to go with a -9 to achieve a bit of a gloomy effect or a gloom effect. Next up, vibrance and saturation. I'm just going to go with a -10 on vibrance and a -10 on saturation to make it a bit more desaturated and more flat looking. Next up, one of the most powerful tools on Lightroom is the tone curve. Now the tone curve, especially the RGB tone curve, basically controls the overall exposure and contrast of our image. So down here, this point, if we move it up, this one controls the blacks or the darkest parts of our image. If we move it up, everything turns to white. If we move it towards the right, everything turns black. And this one controls the whitest parts of our image. So if we move it up, the whites, down, blacks. So what we want to do here is create 2 points, one in the midtones of the shadows and one in the highlights down here. And now the whites over here, this point, we're going to move it down because we don't want pure whites. We don't want overexposed skies or anything like that. The blacks, we're just going to move them up to achieve that faded look. As we can see, if you can see the difference, especially here in the blacks or in the shadows, we can see how it acquires that faded look effect. Yeah, not too much, just around there. It's looking quite faded, guys. Now if that doesn't have enough contrast, you can obviously move this point of the shadows down and move the highlights up, and as we can see, it's acquiring a lot more contrast, but I'm just going to move it ever so slightly down, just like that. And that's basically the base of our edit, guys, to achieve the moody look. Okay, next up in the color grading, we're going to add our personal touch, guys. So I'm just going to walk you through what I do normally. You can move the sliders to a different manner to acquaint to your aesthetic. So let's go down to the HSL tabs. So in HSL tabs, we have 3 values that we want to move. We have the hue, which allows us to move the color grading of a simple color or a selected color towards another. We have the saturation, obviously to desaturate or oversaturate a color. And then we have the luminance to make the color a lot more bright or a lot more dark. So this is the way I work. You can also work by color like this. I like to work with all of them at the same time. And let's start off by moving the reds, not towards the pinkish tones. I always like them towards more orangey tones over here. Now the oranges and yellows, you have to be careful. You have to isolate the color that applies to the skin tone. So for example, the oranges here move my skin tones because my skin tones are in this tab. So I don't want them towards the pink, and I don't want them towards the greenish tone. So I just want them to leave them very natural, just like that, guys. Now the yellows control basically the greens in this case. So if we move in and we can see the grass behind me, if we move the greens or the yellows down, the greens turn towards the yellowish tones. If we move them up, it turns toward that emerald artificial grass green that I don't like. So I'm just going to move them all the way down towards the yellowish or burnt like look. Now the greens also affect the darkest part of our image. So this basically is going to affect not entirely the grass, but maybe the trees, guys. So I'm just going to move them all the way down as well towards the yellows. Meanwhile, aquas and blues, that will affect the blues and the aquas of the sky, of the water, or in this case, my clothing. So if we move the blues to this side, we can see that it turns towards the aquas, to the other side towards the purple. So I'm just going to move them down ever so slightly towards the blues, and the aquas towards the blues as well. Now purple and magenta, I don't really like to play with them. I basically desaturate them completely. I don't like those colors. That will depend on you guys. In saturation, I just desaturate them all the way down to a -100, so I don't see any of those colors in my images. Then the blues, I'm just going to desaturate them just a bit, and as well as the aquas, I don't want completely bluish skies. I want them more dimmed down. Then the greens as well, I'm going to desaturate them just a bit. And then the yellows, I'm just going to leave them like that, and the reds and the oranges. Next up in luminance, I'm just going to apply some minor touches to make some colors pop up and some get dimmed down. So for example, I want the yellows to pop up just a little bit more. That affects the grass and any kind of fire that we have, as well as the reds. But in this case, if I want the subject or my skin tones to pop up, I'm just going to move the oranges up. And as we can see, my skin tones really start glowing. I don't want it to be too glowy or over extreme, so I'm just going to move them up just a little bit like that. Meanwhile, the blues, I'm just going to move them down just a bit, and I'm quite happy with that, guys. Next up, split toning. Now in split toning, what we do is just basically assign a color to the highlight reel and one to the shadows. So with Alt on our keyboard, we can move the slider up and see with what color we're going to work with. So for example, if you wanted to achieve a teal and orange look, you would go for maybe a 200, which is an aqua color like this, and pump up the saturation on the shadows. And as we can see, it's acquiring that teal and orange look. So for this example, I'm not going to move anything like that. So the same applies for the highlights. You can move and apply a color to the highlight reel. So basically for this edit, I'm not going to move it. It's going to be a simple moody edit, but you can play around with this, guys. Next up, camera calibration. Camera calibration is a very powerful tool as well, guys. And I see many editors that just go by it. Now camera calibration affects the colors that come from your camera. It affects the primary green, the primary blue, and the primary red. So basically what I like to do is move the greens up, and as we can see, this affects everything that's composed with green, including my skin tones. And I'm going to move the saturation up just a bit. Now this will allow you have a little bit more rich skin tones with this. You can obviously play around with the other values. I'm just going to leave it like that. So basically that's the edit, guys. Now let's see how it applies on different images, and for that we have to create a preset. I'm just going to go over here, hit the plus sign, and create a new preset. Now up here we can put the name on it. In this case, I'm just going to leave it Moody preset. And down here, we're going to check mark every value that we've altered that we want to pass on to the other images. So in this case, white balancing, remember, exposure and contrast, I don't like to check them. That will depend on each image, and I'm going to hit create. Okay, so now let's see how the preset applies on other images. We have this portrait indoors. Let's apply the preset. It's going to be down here under user presets. And we're just going to select it. And immediately we can see that it acquires that faded look. With Y on our keyboard, we can see what we've done, the before and after. And this one is a lot more contrasty. Still, this one isn't finished, guys. I always like to amp up the exposure just a bit, and the contrast maybe. And Being that she's dressed in a very cozy way, I'm just gonna amp up the temperature to make it a lot more warm, like that. And basically that's a very moody photograph, guys. Okay, next up, I think this is from the same day. Let's apply the preset. And immediately it's looking very good, guys. Just gonna amp up the contrast just a little bit and the temperature, just turn it up to make it a lot more warm. See the before and after, very good, guys. Okay, so next up I have this landscape taken in a car. It's looking very good, guys. Let's apply the preset and immediately it acquires this moody tones. But let's apply a bit more exposure and a bit more contrast. And then, I don't know, I feel like this should be a very cold day. So let's pull down the temperature just a bit to make it a lot more cool. And yeah, it's looking very good, guys. Maybe dim down the exposure just a bit. Next up, this portrait of my mother. Let's apply the preset, a bit more exposure, a bit more contrast. And now what I want to do, this is a portrait obviously. Now in portraits, I always recommend some further retouching. So for portraits, in this case, I am going to apply a bit more texture to emphasize a bit of the wriggles and the aspects of the face. And it's looking very good, guys. Now, if you want to level up your portrait editing, I always recommend to go over here, use the radial mask or the brush tool to emphasize certain aspects of the face to make it pop up a lot more. And always color the eyes and make them a bit more brighter. That will always add a lot more emphasis to your subject. But I'm not going to get into that. That's a whole different topic. So let's continue. Okay, so next up, this image, me holding a pine cone. Let's apply it, a bit more exposure, a bit more contrast with Y on our keyboard. Fantastic edit, guys. I love this one. Next up, we have this image. It's going to be a bit tricky. Obviously, this preset will always pop up a lot more in a very moody day. So this one's going to be quite hard, but we are going to see that lifted shadows and that desaturated vibe. Now let's apply it. Y on our keyboard, we can see what we've done. So in this case, I'm going to make it a bit more warm because it looks a bit more deserty, but we do see those greens very desaturated. Let's apply a bit more temperature, a bit less exposure because it's a very white and sunny day, a bit less contrast. Let's desaturate a bit more. And I'm quite happy with those results, guys. Remember that the moody edits will obviously work a lot more with moody days and moody vibes. And finally, we have these portraits of my dogs in the forest. Let's apply the preset. And with one click, I think this is looking very neat, guys. As well, just like in portraits with people, I always recommend using the brush tool with your pets to emphasize certain aspects, maybe make the eyes a lot more gloomy and a bit more frightening. Now let's see this one of my dog Emmett the same day. Looking good, maybe a bit more exposure. And I'm quite happy with those results, guys. I really love the faded look in the shadows that we've acquired, and it's looking quite moody. So guys, if you follow me on Instagram, you've probably noticed that my profile heavily resembles the Moody style. So I've created a preset pack with 14 Moody presets. The Moody preset pack linked down below if you want to go check it out and support me. That's a way you can ensure I don't starve to death. So this preset pack is heavily curated, dedicated to achieving a moody look with just one click. And that's going to be it for this tutorial, guys. If you liked it, can you please give it a like? It really makes a difference, and consider subscribing. Hit the notification bell to be notified when I upload the next video. Comment, share, anything like that. I'm Fuentes. Cheers to all of you. I'll see you in the next one.
I'm in one crown if you're the king, and that's the way it's gonna be if you're with me. You can take it or you can leave. If you think I can be beat, go and live your fantasy.